there's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. I'm your host for today's episode, Logan Lyles, Director of Partnerships here at Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Heather Thompson. She is the Senior VP of Marketing at Qorus Software. Heather, how are you doing today?
Hi, Logan. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
It is a pleasure to connect with you, coming to us all the way from Cape Town. I really appreciate you making time to chat with me here on the show, Heather. Before we dive into today's topic, we're going to be talking about the execution and the lessons learned around a big piece of user-generated content that you guys focus on once a year on your team and pulling out some of the takeaways for our listeners there. Before we do that, Heather, I would love for you to introduce yourself a little bit and let listeners know what you and the team at Qorus Software are up to these days.
Perfect. Thank you, Logan. Okay, so my background is primarily B2B tech. I've held various senior marketing roles in corporates and then in smaller startup businesses, which I love. I'm responsible for marketing at Qorus, growing the Qorus brand, demand generation and growth, and then tech and operations. And Qorus, in case you're wondering, is spelled Qorus. Some people get that wrong and they want to add a U after the Q.
I think I did that.
We are a B2B software company with headquarters in Seattle and then offices on the East Coast, London, and then in Cape Town, as you mentioned. And our software really helps businesses to create documents more efficiently and accurately. And those are business documents such as sales proposals and presentations, pitches, things like that. And primarily, we work with sales, marketing, and bid teams to be more efficient when creating those documents. So we help them streamline access, the process, and connect teams to relevant and compliant, pre-approved content, which helps them then pull those documents together in a very quick and accurate way. We work quite closely with Microsoft, and the technology or the software is built on the Microsoft platform. So it's fairly simple and intuitive to use, which is also great.
I love it. Well, Heather, we're going to be talking about the execution and some of the takeaways in this piece of user-generated content that you guys work on once a year. So let's kick it off there. What is this piece of content? Why do you guys produce it? I think there are a lot of marketers that listen here that are either actively doing this or thinking about it. So set the stage for us a little bit.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so back in 2014, we were looking for ways to develop content assets and create content assets that were user-generated content, and also to gain insights into our personas. So we came up with this idea of running an annual survey to our context database, which was great. And this is the fourth year that we're going to be rolling it out, which is really exciting. It's really interesting to see the outcomes year after year, and we just get better at doing them. Having done them for a number of years. So that's really the sort of thinking behind that.
So let's talk a little bit about the execution, Heather. Where did you guys start in developing the framework the first time or this last go round in creating this big piece of user-generated content?
So I guess my advice on this would be to just start with a plan have a really detailed plan and sort of strict roles and responsibilities. We use a Smartsheet for our planning, and that makes sure. And I'm a big fan of Smartsheets. I love the way that you can attach documents and things like that, which makes it really easy for us to use. Mm-hmm. We also allocate a budget to the project, and that includes things. If we are going to promote it, it covers the costs of advertising. We also have content writers and graphic designers. Obviously, that comes into that cost. And then the cost of vouchers. So we just think this is a big part of it, because you want people are busy and you want people to give of their time, and you want to be able to appreciate that time. So we offer vouchers to make sure that people are just feel like they're appreciated. What's also really great is that afterwards you can reach out to them to offer the voucher. And it's kind of a way of opening the communication and connecting with those individuals who have responded to the survey. So that's really great. I would also say give yourself enough time, because it does take a while. Like, you want to make sure that you are reaching out to your target audience and that you're gathering quality information so that you can create a compelling report, which I think is really key. And then use that information to create a fantastic piece of content, a report. And we use that in a feedback webinar session, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. So we use SurveyMonkey to set up and capture the information. So we'll put the plan together, put the questions together, and then we add that to SurveyMonkey. In terms of implementing the sort of lead gen tactics to get the survey actually out, we use email, we use our contact database, we use LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn InMail. I think it has a great response rate, and it can be like super, super targeted. We also use social and our CSM team as well to reach out to our target audience and ask them nicely to fill in the survey.
Have you guys been using LinkedIn InMail for the 4 years that you guys have been doing that? Or did that kind of leaning into the targeting and the messaging that you can do there, was that something you guys learned through multiple generations of this process?
I think it's probably evolved. I don't actually know if it was available 4 years ago, to be honest.
That's true.
I think we probably used our email contacts database initially. And I was definitely warned against doing both, because I think certainly one of the lessons that we've learned is that if you're emailing your contacts database, the chances are that they are getting a similar email if you're sending it using LinkedIn InMail as well. So that would just be my one caution. You don't want to be emailing people like spamming people with your survey. Mm-hmm. So I would just be mindful of that when sending it out.
Yeah, I think that is a great point, Heather. So what are some of the things that you guys did tactically to orchestrate that, to make sure that you weren't hitting people with an email and an InMail on LinkedIn on the same day, or, heaven forbid, within just a couple of minutes of each other or something like that?
We just make sure that we segment our data very, very accurately. So we look at the job titles that we're looking to target. So if it's bid teams or proposal teams or sales or marketing or business development, whomever we are looking to target, we will make sure that we're not duplicating those efforts, because otherwise someone can get 5 emails from you or something. Mm-hmm. So it's definitely a learning.
Yeah. So the other thing you mentioned when we were chatting offline, Heather, is the importance of choosing your channels as well. Not only, segmenting that to make sure that people aren't getting multiple touches on different channels or the same channel and getting bombarded, but also you want to be careful about the channels that you select so that you're getting responses from the right folks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think email, if you have a good opt-in contacts database, or you have a list of subscribers and you know who they are, then I think that is probably one of the best ways of reaching out to people. I think LinkedIn, as I mentioned, is also a very, very good way, because it is so targeted. Mm-hmm. We have tried platforms like Facebook before, channels like that, to promote it, and I think you do get responses, but people see that you're offering a voucher and they take the survey. And then I think that the data is questionable. You don't know if you're really getting accurate data or if someone's just filling it in so they can get a free coffee. So I think you've just got to be, as I say, I think you've got to be mindful of the channels that you use to get your responses. I think you need to just think carefully about how you are gathering that information.
It's story time again, and we're talking about search engine marketing. Today, I'm going to tell you about a challenge within Pelican Case's B2B division. Pelican needed a partner with deep B2B expertise that could get them a massive bump in leads from their pay-per-click campaigns without increasing spend. After vetting a handful of agencies, they decided to go with Directive Consulting, a B2B search marketing agency located in Southern California. Directive took on this challenge by refining their targeting and building custom landing pages for their advertising efforts. Once implemented, they saw a 208% increase in conversion rate. Needless to say, Pelican Cases met their initiative. And I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
So you brought up, Heather, the vouchers that you provided to respondents as an incentive to get their response. Can you tell us a little bit about, when you introduced that, the messaging? Because like you said, you want to incent people, but you want to do it at the right time. And then also those follow-up touches that you mentioned in presenting the voucher, how you could kind of lean into that as a non-sales touch point, as a positive touch point from your team. Who's doing that? How does that fit into the workflow?
So our teams, so let me start off. We usually offer the respondent something, generally a voucher. It's usually like a Starbucks coffee or something like that, or drink. And the reason we do it is that you want to be respectful, as I mentioned earlier, of people's time. Everyone's like really super busy, and you really want to value the insights that people are providing. And I do think that that information is like it's like gold dust. So you want to make sure that you, I don't know, just like appreciating it. So that will go out and so if we're sending it out via email, we will offer the voucher, but there are like terms and conditions attached to that. So they have to complete the survey. So they can't just like start the survey and only do like 2 questions. So they have to complete the survey. And then once the survey has been closed and we're busy analyzing the results, then we start reaching out to the respondents and connecting with them because they do provide their email address. So we will then send them an email and say, hi, just want to reach out and say, here's your voucher, enjoy your coffee. And then here's the link to the upcoming webinar where we will be presenting the results back. So, enjoy your voucher, enjoy your coffee, and don't forget to register for the webinar.
Yeah, I like that. It gives you another touch as opposed to once they complete the survey, they're just at a landing page with a code to put in and get their voucher, get their gift card, because it gives you another touch, a welcome touch from your brand to them to reach out and add some more value and thank them personally. And it also segues into the next thing we wanted to talk about is how you guys follow up generating this content with not only, the evergreen asset, but a webinar that you orchestrate after doing this user-generated content in your annual survey. So tell us a little bit about some of the strategy in putting the webinar together and executing that kind of on the back end of this strategy, Heather.
So basically what we do then is we have a look at the results and we take out the main themes of the survey. We will then reach out key customers or thought leaders or contacts that we have and invite them to participate in a panel. We just think this just adds a bit of debate, it adds a bit of interest. And in previous years, we've actually had customers, mostly customers that come onto the panel. And then we go through the results and we talk about we just get people's insight and feedback. What do they think about this result and why do they think that's still the same or whatever it might be. So it really, it adds an immense amount of value, I think, to do it that way rather than just presenting the report back and saying, you present a whole bunch of graphs. And I think the value is really the discussion and the debate and getting the thought leaders that you've invited to sort of weigh in those results.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So do you actually invite some of the respondents to not only attend, but contribute to presenting any of it? Or is it always folks from the Qorus team that are presenting and leading the webinar itself?
So we will usually have, so I'll either facilitate it or one of the senior Qorus representatives will facilitate the webinar.
Mm-hmm.
But we will see who's available. So it could be one of the respondents if they are a thought leader, or if we think that they will make an interesting, it'll make an interesting conversation for our listeners, or it could be a customer, or it could be a prospect. It just depends. Sometimes it's a mix of individuals,
Mm-hmm.
which is great.
Yeah.
It just gives us so much more value.
And there's an opportunity there to kind of vary up the content as well as, build that relationship with, as you mentioned, that was a great point of having a customer share that responded, that's not only valuable for the people attending, but valuable to that relationship with that one customer too, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. So tell me then a little bit about where you guys go from there in repurposing the content, because I think that really is probably the most applicable piece to this, and I think probably the biggest incentive for teams to follow this methodology of a big piece of user generated content at a regular clip, whether it's annually or something like that. What do you guys do to get more mileage out of your efforts in this big annual survey?
So what is great, there's a lot of preparation that goes into the webinar, so that we have the report and the results of the survey. We then develop a custom slide deck for the webinar and also a script for the webinar as well. We develop questions for polls during the webinar, and then we also capture the questions posted by the attendees at the end of the webinar. Mm-hmm. So all of this content can be developed into reports or ebooks. The slide deck can be added to SlideShare. And then we also use the report then in a follow-up email campaign. So thanks for joining. Sorry we missed you. And then in case you missed it. So the people that have attended, or maybe they missed it, they can listen to the recording, because we usually include that. And then they also get the slide deck and the report. So there's a whole lot of content that goes with that. We also pull out like a highlights reel from the webinar. And I think you can also, we haven't done this, but you can create little snippets and video from the webinar as well, which we're looking to do in this year's. Our webinar is taking place in November. So we're going to do that and see how that works. But you can also take stats out of the survey and use those as kind of teasers on social media, creating really interesting images and stuff like that. And then also transcribing the webinar, especially if you've had like really interesting guests on and thought leaders and customers. It's really great to have a transcription of that and either create blogs out of that, like a blog series, or just offer the script. So there is just tons that you can do with all the content, which is awesome. And it's just so valuable to those that, find the topic or the themes really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just such a big fan of user-generated content and the way that can be repurposed into so many different formats. I mean, we do it regularly with this podcast. A conversation like this one turns into inspiration for a LinkedIn post, or inspiration for a new series or something like that. So I love how you broke down the execution of this and the lessons that you guys learned along the way, Heather, about how to present those incentives, creating other touch points, and then finding ways to repurpose the content in a variety of ways. Since you've put the effort into a big push for this sort of large piece of user-generated content, it's great that it produces that one big asset, but create an event around it in the webinar, create micro pieces of content as well. I think our users are going to get a ton of value out of this conversation, Heather. So if anyone listening to this would like to follow up with you, ask any questions, stay connected with you, or go somewhere to find this year's proposal survey. As we mentioned, we have a lot of marketers and sales folks that listen to the show here. What would be the best way for them to follow up and find some of those resources or reach out to you directly?
Logan, thanks. So I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me there under Heather Thompson. I'm also on Twitter, so HThompson39. Otherwise, go to the Qorus website and sign up for our blog or newsletter, and then you will get the notifications that the webinar is happening. And it's happening in November, so if you sign up, you'll definitely get an invitation to join or sign up for that.
I love it. Well, Heather, thank you again so much for being on the show today.
Great, Logan. Thank you for the time. It was great chatting to you.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know, all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.